This is Nightline and I'm Liyana Hassanel. News making the headlines. Government allocates 421 billion ringgit for 2025 budget, the highest in history. And MBI Graft scandal, MACC freezes assets worth millions of ringgit. Good morning. The government announced on Friday a budget spending of 421 billion ringgit for 2025, the biggest in the country's history. This is a 3.3% increase from 407.5 billion ringgit set aside for the revised 2024 budget. The 2025 budget, which was presented by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim in the Dewan Rakyat on Friday, focuses on attracting high-quality investments, stimulating business opportunities, tackling leakages of public funds, creating jobs and boosting wages, as well as implementing initiatives that enhance the well-being of the Rakyat. The 2025 budget is the third budget tabled by the Anwar-led Madani government and the last under the 12th Malaysia Plan, before the transition to the 13th Malaysia Plan for the next 5 years. Anwar, who is also the finance minister, stated that a total of 335 billion ringgit is allocated for operating expenditure, while the remaining 86 billion ringgit is earmarked for development spending, excluding 2 billion ringgit set aside for contingency reserves. He said that the initiatives announced in the budget are designed to accelerate Malaysia's journey to become an economic powerhouse in Asia, positioning it for sustainable growth and resilience. He noted that the country's economic performance exceeded expectations, both in terms of growth, investment and the value of the ringgit, reflecting investor confidence and early success from the Madani economy's reform measures.
Dengan itu, KDNK 2024 diunjur lebih kukuh antara 4.8 hingga 5.3% ketimbang 4 ke 5% sebelumnya. Tahun depan kita yakin ekonomi berkembang insya-Allah kukuh antara 4.5 hingga 5.5%. Didukung langkah strategi belanjawan Madani ketiga 2025.
The Education, Health and Defence Ministries are three primary beneficiaries of the 2025 budget, collectively accounting for 31% of the total allocation. Anwar also said this year's revenue collection is again projected to be higher at 322 billion ringgit compared to 308 billion ringgit, while revenue collection in 2025 is expected to continue to rise to 340 billion ringgit. The government also aims to reduce its debt to 80 billion ringgit next year, down from 100 billion ringgit in 2022. The Prime Minister also emphasized that fiscal reforms that will be implemented next year will be more aggressive, including the progressive expansion of tax revenue and the targeting of subsidies only to the majority of people in need. Meanwhile, Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi said the 2025 budget reflects the government's inclusiveness and concern for all Malaysians. Ahmad Zahid, who is also the Rural and Regional Development Minister, said the ministry has been allocated an additional 457 million ringgit, bringing the total allocation to 11.9 billion ringgit, the largest it has received so far.
Kita telah meneliti bahawa belanjawan pada kali ini tidak meminggirkan masyarakat di perdesaan, apatah lagi jurang di antara wilayah Semenanjung, Sabah dan Sarawak.
As for Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Fadilah Yusof, the budget also reflected the government's commitment to enhance the dignity of its citizens. He added that the development allocation of over 12 billion ringgit for Sabah and Sarawak is also seen as a positive sign for the residents of both states and has the potential to reduce the fiscal development gap between the peninsula and these regions.
Tanggungjawab saya juga ialah untuk menjaga hal ehwal Sabah Sarawak. Saya mengucapkan terima kasih kepada Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri kerana pengumuman peruntukan pembangunan untuk Sabah dan Sarawak 6.7 bilion dan 5.9 bilion. Begitu juga kalau kita melihat kenaikan peruntukan khas yang dulu tahun ini 300 juta setiap negeri ditingkatkan menjadi 600 juta setiap negeri mulai tahun depan.
Commodities and Plantations Minister Datuk Sri Johari Abdul Ghani stated that the 65 million ringgit allocation through Budget 2025 is expected to provide a boost for more smallholders to obtain the Malaysian Sustainable Palm Oil MSPO certification. Of the total, 15 million ringgit will go towards countering the anti-palm oil campaign.
Saya pun minta banyak tapi tak dapat. Tak dapat banyaklah. Tapi walau bagaimanapun ada juga penekanan yang diberi kepada pekebun-pekebun kecil dalam industri peladangan dan komoditi ini kerana kita masih lagi dapat 100 juta untuk membantu pekebun-pekebun kecil supaya mereka dapat meneruskan penanaman semula.
Johari also told the media after the presentation of 2025 budget that his ministry will implement replanting programs over the next 5 years. And he is confident that the initiative will have a positive impact on smallholders. The Prime Minister also announced earlier that the government plans to raise the threshold for windfall profit levies on palm fruit to 3,150 ringgit for Peninsula Malaysia and to 3,650 ringgit for Sabah and Sarawak. The price range structure and export duty rate for crude palm oil also will be revised starting November 1st, 2024, while the current treatment for crude palm oil exports from Sabah and Sarawak will be maintained. In 2025, the Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah STR and the Sumbangan Asas Rahmah SARA programs will see their highest handout rates ever. In a speech, Anwar said the government increased the budgets for these from 10 billion ringgit to now 13 billion ringgit, benefiting 9 million recipients or 50% of the country's adult population. This increase in budget allows households to receive more financial aid, from 3,700 ringgit in 2024 to 4,600 ringgit in 2025. The Prime Minister added starting next year, 4.1 million households qualify as STR recipients and will receive cash aid of 100 ringgit per month under the SARA program. And this is a large increase from the 700,000 recipients in 2024.
Bantuan SARA dikreditkan dalam MACC, penerima bermula April 2025 dibelanjakan untuk membeli barangan asas, minuman, ubatan, barang persekolahan, dan lain-lain.
Anwar said SDR recipients who are single will receive 600 ringgit worth in aid, and welfare aid for senior citizens had been increased to 600 ringgit a month from the current 500 ringgit. Anwar also said aid for impoverished children had been increased to 250 ringgit from the previous 200 ringgit for children below 6 years old. The government will also give a 500 ringgit special financial aid to all civil servants grade 56 and below, including those appointed by contract.
Sukacita saya umumkan kerajaan bersetuju memberikan bantuan khas kewangan RM500 kepada semua penjawat awam grade 56 ke bawah termasuk lantikan kontrak. Bantuan khas ini diberi kepada semua pesara kerajaan termasuk veteran berpencen, veteran tidak berpencen sebanyak RM250. Ini disalurkan pada bulan Februari 2025.
He said more than 1.8 billion ringgit is being allocated for the construction, maintenance and renovation of civil servants' quarters. In his 2025 budget speech, Anwar also announced plans to raise the national minimum wage effective February 1st, 2025. He highlighted that the wage hike is a critical step towards economic restructuring.
Kerajaan Madani sentiasa menitik beratkan soal pendapatan rakyat. Penstrukturan ekonomi hanya dianggap berjaya apabila rakyat meraih gaji dan upah yang bermakna untuk menjalani hidup yang lebih selesa. Untuk itu, kerajaan bersetuju menaikkan kadar gaji minimum dari RM1,500 kepada RM1,700 sebulan. Dan akan berkuat kuasa mulai 1 Februari 2025.
However, he added the government will put a temporary postponement of the minimum wage requirement for small businesses for those with less than 5 employees until August 1st, 2025. He said that the Progressive Wage Policy, PWC, which began as a pilot project in June this year, is part of the government's initiative to reform the labour market to increase workers' incomes. And to support the implementation of the PWC, the government has allocated 200 million ringgit, benefiting an estimated 50,000 workers. The government will also allocate 250 million ringgit to increase the participation of more impoverished citizens under the People's Income Initiative to boost their income. Anwar also said the Human Resources Ministry will provide the minimum wage guidelines for all employment sectors for workers' reference. Meanwhile, the Malaysian Employee Federation, MEF, has praised the decision to raise the minimum wage effective February 1st next year. Its president, Datuk Syed Hussein Syed Husman, said that the new minimum wage was just a starting point. Syed Hussein also commended the government for considering the challenges faced by micro and small-medium enterprises, MSMEs, when determining the new minimum wage rate. He welcomed the reasonable grace period granted to employers, particularly for micro-enterprises with fewer than 5 employees, which will have an additional 6 months to implement the 1,700 ringgit minimum wage. After the implementation of diesel subsidy rationalisation, the targeted subsidy for RON95 petrol will be implemented in the middle of next year. However, the Prime Minister said that the government remains committed to providing subsidies for 85% of the population.
Kenyataan yang tidak dapat disangkal adalah bahawa warga asing dan 15% teratas pengguna mahakaya menikmati 40% subsidi petrol RON 95 bernilai 8 bilion ringgit. 8 bilion ringgit itu subsidi kerajaan dari orang yang mengutip cukai kepada golongan mahakaya dan warga asing. Maka lebih baiklah 8 bilion ini dimanfaatkan untuk kemudahan pendidikan, kesihatan, pengangkutan awam, termasuk orang asli.
Anwar said the government will continue to bear an estimated 12 billion ringgit in subsidies for the needs of 85% of the population. Currently, the price of RON95 petrol in Malaysia stands at 2 ringgit 5 cent per litre, significantly lower than neighbouring countries, such as Thailand at 5 ringgit 85 cent, Indonesia 3 ringgit 38 cent, Singapore 9 ringgit 2 cent, and Saudi Arabia 2 ringgit 66 cent. Touching on the targeted diesel subsidy, Anwar reiterated that it is expected to save up to 4 billion ringgit per year. The targeted diesel subsidy has also proven successful in curbing leakages due to smuggling and use by ineligible business sectors, according to Anwar. In the meantime, the Prime Minister said the government also plans to implement targeted subsidies for education and healthcare, so that the super-rich will not be subsidized. According to him, recent data showed that 30% of students in fully residential SBP schools come from high-income families, while the subsidy for each SBP student amounted to 15,000 ringgit a year.
Daripada dana itu boleh digunakan untuk membantu rakyat atau pelajar dan mahasiswa dalam kategori M40 dan B40.
In addition to education, the government is also exploring targeting healthcare subsidies. Now, Anwar said that total public investment for development in 2025 will be worth 120 billion ringgit. He stated that in addition to government development allocations, public-private partnership PFI projects valued at 9 billion ringgit will also be implemented, along with direct domestic investments by government-linked investment companies, GLICs, amounting to 25 billion ringgit.
Maknanya, keseluruhan pelaburan awam untuk pembangunan tahun 2025 akan meningkat tinggi ke 120 bilion ringgit. Dan tertinggi dalam sejarah mutakhir kita. Namun, kita tidak akan melaksanakan apa-apa projek mega. Pembangunan negara harus menumpukan kepada infrastruktur, prasarana dan projek kepentingan rakyat dan menyokong kawasan perindustrian mengikut keutamaan negeri.
Aside from this, the government will focus on increasing private investment by 78 billion ringgit and generating 900,000 jobs by 2030. The government will introduce the new investment incentive framework in the third quarter of next year. 1 billion ringgit in investment funds will also be allocated to train local talent and encourage high-value activities. Also, 300 million ringgit will be set aside for Khazanah's National Fund of Funds to support investment in startups. 2% dividend tax to increase country's revenue base. More on the 2025 budget when we return.
EH958, runway 14 right.
Gentlemen, EH958, cabin crew, be seated for landing. Thank you for choosing Fly FM.
Hey, Mat. Kita dah lambat ni, Mat. Hey, you need to speak English now. Hey, bro, we're late, bro. Hey, it's okay, let's go.
It's Ian and Hanif on the Fly Breakfast.
How can women bring each other up instead of tearing each other down?
As much as we can talk about toxic femininity and toxic masculinity, at the end of the day, it's just about character in itself.
Please know that it is safe to be yourself, to be your authentic self. I think once we establish that safety inside first, we can go about and make impacts in beautiful ways.
Yes. Watch the brand new season of Women Talk, Saturdays 5 p.m. on TV3. Stream now on Tonton.
At the tabling of the 2025 budget, the Prime Minister announced that the government aims to implement a 2% tax on dividend income of over 100,000 ringgit earned by individual shareholders in 2025. KPMG Malaysia's head of tax, Soh Lian Seng, believes that the move can expand the country's revenue base, ensuring that it is not solely reliant on contributions from wage earners alone.
2% on the dividend tax itself should be able to give some additional revenue, and of course the benefit is in terms of KWSP, PNB and ASB, these are all exempted. So I would say this is a holistic and balanced budget where it takes care of the well-being of the rakyat, at the same time to promote and the growth of the economy. I actually expect the government to announce the high-value goods tax. It was announced last year, but in terms of implementation, regarding the scope as well as the threshold, expect it to come out. If that is being implemented, it would at least give additional revenue to the government.
Earlier, Anwar also said that sales tax will not be imposed on basic food items, but applied to non-essential items, such as premium imported goods like salmon and avocados, while service tax will be widened to include commercial services, including businesses like fee-based financial services. The expansion of the sales and service tax, SST, will begin on May 1st, 2025. The 2025 budget can position Malaysia well to face future challenges, particularly in driving further growth and improving the living standards of the people. Putra Business School economist Dr. Ahmad Razman Abdul Latif stated that this is evident through the government's move to increase the national minimum wage.
When we look into the commitment by the government to continue assisting the human capital development, as well as accelerating the growth of the local businesses through various incentives, this will further spur the domestic growth, but at the same time ensuring that when people started to get more competitive salary, the quality of life will be improved overall to the population.
Razman also noted that the implementation of targeted subsidy for RON95 petrol would not negatively impact the public.
With regards to government plan to implement targeted subsidy for RON95 petrol in mid-2025, I don't think this is going to affect the population much because only 15% of the population will be affected. Majority, the 85%, will still continue to benefit from the subsidy. But at the same time, the government revenue will increase, and this can be channeled towards helping more people in need. And the concern about rising prices due to targeted subsidies might not be material or significant due to the government continuing imposition of price control mechanism.
The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC has frozen assets and accounts worth millions of ringgit as part of its corruption probe involving sand mining concessions linked to a subsidiary of Menteri Besar Selangor Incorporated, MBI. However, MACC Chief Commissioner Tan Sri Azam Baki said no new arrests have been made so far.
We had frozen some assets and accounts, but I don't have the details. But I'm not denying that we're going to freeze any asset or account.
This will be to the tune of millions, Tan Sri? Ballpark figure?
Yeah, we are looking to the millions. We are not looking to the ringgit, small numbers.
Azam told reporters on Friday that the remand period for an individual previously arrested has been extended by 7 days to facilitate further investigation. He stated that investigators are still tracing shares suspected to have been received as bribes, which are currently held in several companies. He explained that they needed time to conduct their investigations, especially as they were looking into 20 projects, adding that he expects to provide an update in the next few days. Last Thursday, 2 individuals, a former MBI senior executive and a businessman, were arrested in connection with the case. To date, the MACC has raided 9 premises and seized nearly 6 million ringgit in cash, including 5 million ringgit in foreign currency discovered at a residence. Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar killed in combat. This and more from the Foreign Front when we return.
Nama aku Reza. Ini dunia aku. Apa pun dalam hidup kita, kena ada pendirian.
Cik ni siapa sebenarnya?
Maira.
Mana-mana kita pergi semua orang cari. Semua orang tangkap. Aku ni bakal jadi suami Maira.
Awak bawa saya lari atau awak bawa ke jenazah keluarga isteri awak?
Semangat yang jitu pastinya menjanjikan sebuah kejayaan.
Kalau nak berjaya memang kita kena lalu kesusahan tu.
Sebab konsisten training tu yang penting.
Bila kita bertanding, kita bukannya bertanding dengan orang lain, tapi kita lawan target kita sendiri.
Selepas saya didiagnos, yang paling drastik adalah transisi hidup sebagai pelajar perubatan kepada pesakit bara payudara.
Biasanya annually kita akan ada collection wedding. Fokusnya adalah lebih kepada baju pernikahan ready to wear.
On to the foreign front. Hamas on Friday has confirmed the death of its leader, Yahya Sinwar, adding that the leader died defending Palestine until the very last moments of his life. The group said Sinwar was killed in combat with the Zionist military in Gaza. The head of Hamas in Gaza, Khalil Hayat, said that the 62-year-old leader was steadfast, brave and intrepid and sacrificed his life to the cause of our liberation. Sinwar had operated from Gaza throughout Israel's 12-month war on the enclave, assuming overall control of the group following the assassination of Hamas Politburo head Ismail Haniyeh in late July. Under Sinwar's direction, Hamas maintained its military pressure in Gaza, as well as maintaining civil administration across the Gaza Strip. However, despite the killing of the leader, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said it was not the end of the war in Gaza. At least 10 Palestinians were killed in a Zionist strike on the Maghazi refugee camp in central Gaza on Friday, following the killing of at least 28 people, including children, in an attack on a UN shelter in northern Gaza's Jabalia. Meanwhile, global leaders on Friday have expressed the hope that the killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar might provide an opportunity to end Israel's war in Gaza. Iran's mission to the United Nations spoke of Sinwar as a martyr. In a post on X, the mission said that when Muslims look up to the martyr Sinwar standing on the battlefield in combat attire and out in the open, not in a hideout facing the enemy, the spirit of resistance will be strengthened. Meanwhile, Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz said he hoped Sinwar's death would pave the way for a ceasefire. He said with the death of the Hamas leader Sinwar, the concrete prospect will hopefully now open up for a ceasefire and an agreement to release the hostages in Gaza. On the other hand, US President Joe Biden, who was also in Germany, said Sinwar's death marks a moment of relief for Israelis, while providing the opportunity for a day after in Gaza without the group in power. Whilst Vice President Kamala Harris said Sinwar's death would be a chance to finally end the war in Gaza. Actions from 2024 Malaysia Super 100. Sports right after this breather.
Hello, apa khabar? Tengok buat apa tu? Hey, dah ready ke untuk generasi showdown?
Gang Boomers dah lama ready. Alah, tanya Kak Jen why. We are ready when you are ready.
Cakap apa ni? Kita ni Gen Z tau. Mestilah kita orang terpaling ready. Dah lah, main nak buat live ni. Jumpa nanti.
Generasi Showdown, Gen yang real.
Alah, dah habis? Tak sempat nak tengok.
Drama TV3 Mak? Tengok je lah, tonton.
So, mana nak buat?
Telefon Mak. Mula-mula Mak buka tonton, lepas tu tekan sign up here untuk buat akaun baru. Isi nombor telefon, email dengan password. Masukkan nombor TAC dan siap.
Lah, senang je. Jadi tengok dasar.
Boleh lah. Jadi dah drama Mak tu.
Sports now, badminton, the 2024 Denmark Open. National men's doubles shuttlers Aaron Chia and So Woo Yik fell short in their bid to defend their title after crashing out in the quarterfinals on Friday. Despite putting up a strong fight, the world number 4 duo were sent packing 2022 15-21 by China's Chen Boyang Liu Yi. It was the Malaysians' first defeat to the unseeded Chinese pair after having secured wins at the Malaysian Masters and Arctic Open this year. Still on badminton, the 2024 Malaysia Super 100. National shuttlers continued their fine form in the tournament, with majority of the country's representatives storming into the semi-finals on Friday. Men's doubles pair Lo Hang Yi and Ang Cheong stayed solid in their game to beat Takumi Nomura Yuichi Shimogami of Japan 21-10, 21-12 in their quarterfinal clash. The world number 52 duo will take on Taiwan's Wu Suan Yi Yehong Wei for place in the final. In the mixed doubles action, Wang Tianqi, Lim Chiu Sien stayed calm and collected in the deciding game to outlast Americans Presley Smith, Jenny Dai 21-17, 15-21, 21-10 in the quarterfinals. The world number 57 pair are scheduled to face third seeds Yuichi Shimogami, Sayaka Hobara in the last four. Meanwhile, the sole representative in the men's singles event, Justin Haw, crashed out in the quarters, leaving him without a World Tour title yet again. The talented but injury-prone shuttler could not match the speed and endurance of Taiwan's top seed, Shi Yu-Zhen, losing 21-18, 17-21, 6-21 in 70 minutes. Nightline draws to close this time around. Before we leave, let's take a look as the 2024 New York Comic Con kicked off at the Javits Center, featuring several panels from hit television shows, movies, and comics, along with celebrity appearances and plenty of fans in costumes. With that, I'm Liyana Hassanel. Thank you for tuning in and have a great weekend.